Hi IKEA, why can't you do this? True wireless stereo on your Eneby speakers. So before I begin to actually start modifying these speakers, I want to talk a little bit about them. Because IKEA, you made some really good speakers, at least for first run, but why the heck did you not actually use all the capabilities in these speakers? You're using a Bluetooth chip from Qualcomm or CSR, that is the CSR A64110, which is actually capable of true wireless stereo, which you did not use. You could also have used it to route the audio pads for the auxiliary, which then would save you a little bit of money because you're basically going from analog to digital instead of just going from analog straight through the CSR and actually digitally going from the CSR through your audio amplifiers. I would also recommend using the CSR 64215, which is actually also capable of using aptX, because you're using the lowest codec CBS instead of, for instance, AAC, which these chips are actually capable of, the ones that you're using, which is also the standard that Apple are using. Other than that, I like these speakers, but you should really not have to be able to walk up and turn them on all the time, because if you're not connected to it or you're not using it for 15 minutes, they turn itself off, and that's just the Bluetooth chip itself. The amplifiers, all the power supply is still on, drawing the same amount of current. And let's not forget that it just turns itself off. Like if the volumes are too low. If you're watching a movie and you have this connected to your TV, it will just suddenly go silent, which is super annoying. But you know, one step at a time, so let's just fix the through wireless stereo. Okay, so the first thing that's going to do is, of course, disassemble the Eneby. So we want to remove this knob. It can be a little bit tight sometimes. Be careful because this is poking out. We're going to turn it over. I've already modified this one, so it does have a button, but this basically screws all around the edges, and as well 1 and 2 down here. So we're just going to remove those straight away. Now, this one can be a little bit tricky. As you can see, I got the one edge open, but this edge usually is a little bit more tricky, so just be careful because there's like a couple of wires. But you should be able to just go around and pop it up. So, and you can see, of course, I got the wire for the speaker, but you can see inside. But we need to flip it over because there's going to be one for power and one for the aux. So on this side. So when you open this, you want to wait at least a couple of minutes so you get everything discharged. So when disconnect that connector, that's the power connector. So that'll be the first thing to do. So just pop it like so. Now we've got a little bit more space, but it's still connected down there. I'm just going to put this down. This is basically how it's going to look when it's finished with all the connectors and stuff. But I'm just going to take this down and go back a little bit in time and show you how I modified that circuit board. Okay, so here you can see in close-up of the board. You can see we have the programmer headers down here, and there's also been labeled. So what we're going to do, we're going to solder on some wires or some headers that we can use, so we can break them out and more easily program this. We're also going to add a couple more. We're going to also add another pin, which is the third over here, which is the reset, or it's actually an enable pin. And what we're also going to do, or at least what I'm going to do, is I'm going to cut this trace, because this is an earlier model of the Eneby, so it will actually turn off if the volume is too low, but it would also turn itself off after a short period of time. And that is what this basically is doing. So what we're going to do is just add a wire, so basically just pull this one up or high and cut the trace. We're also going to use
this one. This is pin PIO number 18. And this is the one that we will connect our button to. And we're also going to use, I think is the 4th pin on this side, which will be LED number 1, which I'm also going to break out, so it will be easier to see when we have the button on the back side. It'll be easier to see what's going on. So let's just solder on the connector. We're going to use, you can use all of these, but I'm going to use, you're basically going to use from this one, pin number 2 and down. And we're also going to add the 3rd one, which is the reset one. Okay, so now we got basically everything soldered up. One thing to note is the wires that's sticking out. We have 4 wires, so we can start over here. The green one is for the button. This one feeds 1.8 volt, which is going to trigger an event, which goes to the yellow button. So yellow and green are the buttons. And then we have red and blue. Red is 3 volts positive, or 3.3 volts positive, and the blue one is the negative. So we can have a dial like LED between those. We also added down here the yellow one, that's pin number 3, at least from this edge. So there we can see a little bit better. So we have a ground pin, the power pin, and then we have a reset pin, which also connected to our header, which is just like these, 6 of these. Okay, so this is basically everything we need to do on this board. So we're just going to do some hot glue or silicone and just seal this up so nothing will break. So before we go any further, I wanted to talk about these USB SPI converters. I'd really recommend getting one of these because you can do a lot more. You can see I got some breakup wires, and underneath this blob is just some resistors, just some safety, but you don't really need those. They're basically overkill. What I do want to point out though is there are some different versions of these outside, or you can buy different versions, or basically all that's different is basically how these pins are connected. So I've connected these in a way so they were easily to be programmed for a specific amplifier that I had. And most CSR chips seems to have kind of the similar way of connecting, of having these connected. But just be careful when you connect these up, just to have it in the correct way. At least the ground pin, I would say, and the 3.3 volt is the most important to notice because you don't want to mix those up. Also, we can open this up, and here you can see how mine looks. So this is the version that I have. It looks like it says version 3.2 on it. So yeah, I really recommend getting one of these. Now we're on the computer, and I'm using a Mac, but what you really want to is, or what you need to is you're gonna have to need to use Windows. I'm using Windows 7 32-bit, and that seems to be working really well on these programs. I've also seen other people use a 64-bit system and Windows 10, so you just try to download the software and see if it works for you. Anyway, PS Tools, which is this one, is going to be working anyway. So worst case scenario, you're always going to get this working. So what you always want to do first is open PS Tools, and all the tools that I'm using is going to be linked down in the description. And this is what you're gonna see. You're gonna see that it's trying to connect to the USB SPI. That's the one from CSR. So we're gonna connect OK. And here you can see all the settings. The 2 tools that are gonna be linked. It's gonna be PS Tools, and it's also gonna be the configuration tool, which is in the background. The first thing you always want to do when you're connecting to a new thing for the first time is to do a dump, and that will basically create a full copy of all the settings of your speakers. If you can't use the configuration tool, what you can do is then click File, Merge, and then open the full. It's going to be named like this. It's going to be down in the description, but it's going to at least end with full, which is going to be full configuration. When you go and try to merge that, you're basically going to see all the settings. But then there are 3 things then you want to be careful of that you want to change. And that is actually the first one that comes up. that is the Bluetooth address. And you want to make sure that the first one is okay. You basically don't need to do a lot. You can basically just download it and do set and then reset and close, or just reset. So the reason being that you need to change for the next thing is because the Bluetooth address is a specific address, and if you have two with the same address, you're just going to be messed up. So what you basically just going to do is you can basically just copy the first one, no problem at all. But you do want the next time off of the second Eneby speaker, want to change the value. So this one has like a 1 in the end, so you can just change that to 2. That's all. You don't need to do a lot more. Of course, when you change it to 2, do set. Another thing that you maybe want to be able to do, or what you want to, is you can type in user. Okay, it just came up a warning because I changed this value and then changed it back again, and I don't want to write it. But you can then search user, and it comes up user friendly name. And here you can actually change the name of the speaker. That's basically going to be all you can do with PS tools, but at least you can actually use this system if the other program if you can't run the other program. And you can also use this way with an FTDI, USB, SPI converter. I'm also going to link that in the description below, so you don't really need to buy the CSR converter, but I really recommend to doing it anyway. So after you've done that, or you at least got a dump of the original file, so in case something goes wrong, you can always just go back and replace it. You can just close this program. And now for the configuration tool. I've already been connected to it, so you can just do read device. And you can see it already pops up. So by now you already had the full configuration file, and if you didn't change the name in the PS tool, you can do it here. Just go to Bluetooth and you can change the name. In this time, you don't really need to think about the Bluetooth address because this tool is not going to be erasing or changing that. But I've already done all the modifications that you're going to need. So it's basically going to be kind of the same thing, going to be open PS file, and now we're just going to be called like configuration tool. And if you can see, here's the full dump, it's 30 kilobytes, and the configuration tool only got 5. And besides, you can't open the full one anyway. So you're going to be open that one, and you're basically going to get all the settings that I've changed for you. And you're basically just going to click write device and reset device. And that's all you basically need to do. So now we got all the settings that I've done. So to get through wireless stereo going onto your Eneby. And you're going to do that to both of your speakers. But what you also can do, if you want to go further, is you can, for instance, go to user interface. And what most people might find annoying is the playback tones. And you can basically go here and see, and you can play around with these and change them to, for instance, if you want to change it when it gets power on, instead of having the 4 rising scale, you can change that, and there's a huge variety to choose from. And you can even go so far to make your own audio kind of audio prompt, but that's for another day. Anyway, after you've done some modification, I really recommend saving the file, then writing it to device, then reset device. So if you kind of mess something up, you can just go back and things will be working again, because that can happen. Another good thing that you can change is user event. Has all the buttons. You basically got one button, but you can play around it, as well as the LED, how that's going to be blinking. But probably for most people, it's just going to be more than enough to just go through and just copy the settings that I've done, and then go to Bluetooth and then change the name. And that's all for the things that you're going to need to do on the computer. Just be careful to connect the CSR chip correctly. And of course, all the pictures and that will also be down in the description below. I'm also going to give a shout out to Dari, another YouTuber. He has a lot of great videos on how to get started with the CSR tools and how to use them, how to connect them, and all that. So I really recommend going out and checking out his channel. I'm going to put a link in the description. Okay, so now we're going to do a quick sound test, and what we're going to do, we're going to turn the Eneby speakers on, and since they're being split up to be in permanent mode, they should connect automatically.
Then just turn the volume up. They're already now being connected. So let's see if it can connect to MacBook. That's the sound that we want. Let's just up it. You can see now it's connected to the MacBook. Okay, so I'm just going to show you basically how you can change between left and right. And you can see that we have this button, which is basically the indicator button that we added on the backside. And I'm just taking this out so you can easily see what I'm doing. So we're going to double tap it. Now we're in mono. Back in the correct side again. And in mono. And that's how you change between those two settings. So now I'm just going to show you how you can actually connect these two together. The button is still out, so you can easily see what's going on the back side of this one. This one is not connected to anything, and this MacBook is connected to this Eneby. So if we play some music, it plays. So what you want to do is you first want to connect to a speaker, and then push the button once, and then push the button on the speaker that is not connected to anything. So, and you don't want to play music, or because it's just going to take a longer period of time. So push the button, you heard the sound, and then this one. And now it's just a matter of waiting. And there you go. Now it's been connected. You can see both of the lights are connected, and these one are also just blinking. And there you have it. Through wireless stereo. Easy.